Join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show all appointments are present. Consent agenda warrant number 26, 125, 2021. Number 27, 125, 2021. And number 28, 125, 2021. Payroll register number 4, dated 128, 2021. And number 5, dated 2/4/2021.
Make the motion, we second. Second, read.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes from January 25th, 2021. I have a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from January 25th, 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? Motion carries. Old business. Savage? What? Mr. Gopi? Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
None for me. Items of communication. Mr. Town Manager?
I have a couple things. Some of them are in your packet, others I'll just pass along to you. Just keep in mind that the deadline for foreclosure on unpaid 2018 taxes is the 16th of February. So at the next meeting, if there are any that have foreclosed, I'll bring you a list. Town office will be closed on Monday the 15th in observation of President's Day. In your packet, you should have received some updated meeting schedules. I did not realize that town meeting would have to be on the 7th of June this year instead of the 14th, which would typically be the second Monday. But because the state election is slated for the 8th, town meeting will be on the 7th, to coincide with that. Also put in your packets a letter that some of you might have received from the Water District, noticing a water sampling violation. That had more to do with the U.S. mail than it did with the Water District. Their November test didn't get to the place where it needed to get by November 30th. That's why they were flagged with a violation. They sent another test in on December 9th, and it was fine. So it had nothing to do with water quality. It had to do with the Postal Service not being able to get it there in time. In your package, you also saw a report from Julie Forbes on the library for this year. And just two things I wanted to bring to your attention, to spend just a few seconds on. One, it had been 5 years since the town had their last audit from the Bureau of Motor Vehicles for our vehicle registrations. And so we were audited 2 weeks ago. In that audit report, they just made a note that they would rather not have people who work for the town do their own vehicle registrations, and they would rather have them not do registrations for their immediate family members. So BMV, that was the only thing they noted in the audit, and they just asked us to include it in a policy. So in your packets, I'm not asking you to take action on it tonight, but I'd like you to read it over the next couple of weeks. This is internal controls for the town of Madison. Has a lot to do with cash receiving and that sort of thing. It's been updated. This will be the first update since 2010. And so you can see in the bullet points on the first page, we've added the two elements about town employees not registering their vehicles or trying not to register their family members. BMV understands we're all small towns and we're all related to everybody. So even though it may be difficult not to wait on one of your relatives, just keep in mind it's a policy that BMV is asking us to enact. At the next meeting, I plan to put it on the agenda as an item for you to vote up or down on or make any changes to. So I just give it to you by way of information tonight.
So is this a recommendation, or are they making it a law?
It's not a law. BMV will just continue to bring it up on every audit unless we put it in our policy that says we're trying not to. And the only other thing under items of communications just came across my desk this weekend, I got an email from Brad Farron, our Senate representative for the state. And the town of Norwalk had sent Brad a letter expressing their concerns about a ruling or an amendment that's being considered by the Department of Marine Services. They're updating their Kennebec River Management Plan. And I did have a chance to read through it a little bit today. They are recommending the removal of 4 dams, which would be downriver from us here. And that would be the Weston Dam in Skowhegan, the Shawmut Dam down in Benson, and then a couple of facilities in Waterville. Now, it's highly unlikely that this would actually happen, but the concern is that this would impact all the towns along the Kennebec if they remove these dams for the protection of the salmon habitat. That's kind of what's driving here. And you're probably all familiar with fish passages and fish ladders that have to be built into all the FERC agreements. So I drew together a letter, a draft letter, that you all have copies of it there. The public hearing on this has this is what brought Brad's email to me, is the public hearing is coming up really quick. I believe it's next Tuesday for the public hearing. So if the board is concerned, and we share the same concerns as Norwalk and Skowhegan, I drafted a letter if you wanted to send this along as part of the public hearing process, that we urge the Department of Marine Services to try to find other ways to benefit the fish habitat than removing dams. Now, the plan that they're talking about amending hasn't been amended since 1993, so it's a pretty old plan. And it does identify the Abenaki and Anson hydros here, and they say right now they're not in the endangered territory. But obviously, if they move forward with these recommendations and down the road the 4 dams below us are removed, it could have a significant impact even if our dams aren't removed. And certainly for towns like Skowhegan that have invested a lot of recreational dollars in a run of the river, removal of that dam would just throw that right out the window. So I leave it with you. If you'd like me to send this letter, you have a copy there. If you'd like to take no action on it, that's fine. If you would like to take action, I guess I would need a motion and a second to send the letter.
Any motion?
Second.
I assume everybody's read over the letter. All right, any questions? Anybody have any questions? I guess the letter is more to get more information, I would say.
The letter is just to raise the awareness to the committee of the economic impact of the dams, especially our dams, to Madison, and just to simply say we would like to see more public process, more public involvement in this decision on this amendment.
All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, we have a motion to send the letter to Maine Department of Marine Services to express our concerns about removing the dams below us on the Kennebec River. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Thank you.
Since you all have a copy, if I could ask you, Mr. Savage, to sign yours and just move it down that way, that would be great. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, all right, and letter G, new business, discuss continuance of town paying commercial hauler tipping fees.
This has been discussed in a meeting a month ago when there was a public hearing held. The only thing that I added to your packets was the most recent numbers from Waste Management. This is our 2020 final figures for tons at the front gate, back gate, and I also put in there the other fees that we pay in the back gate regarding the handling of some recyclable materials. So that's all I have to add.
Any, no, we have a motion. Any motion? Say it again, is there any motion? But it says continuance of the town paying the commercial hauler fee, so if we have no motion, we will continue to pay them.
Right, I mean, I didn't know that we even brought this issue up.
Selectmen, we didn't, the town manager did that.
Right, yeah.
Seeing no motion, we'll move to number 2. We will not take it up. Department head reports. We have, the sheriff's report, we have the
Don French provided fire.
fire department, sorry. We have the fire department report, and so we have also a library report, we have our good friend, our road commissioner here.
Yeah, nothing really new to report, other than a few small snowstorms the last couple of weeks. You guys been taking care of the garage and getting it cleaned up, same as the last couple of weeks. Other than that, not much else new.
All right, any big snowstorms coming, or?
Nope.
We good? No? Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other thing on the town? Any other town departments? We had Julie's too from the library. We did. All right, number 3, discuss proposed property tax assistance program.
So in your package, you should have a one-page data sheet on this. I mentioned it in passing at the last meeting, because at the last meeting, we discussed the impact of rising property values, simply because of recent retail sales over the last 3 years. We are falling out of the 90% that we need to stay into for our sales ratio. In other words, when homes sell, our valuations need to stay within 90% of what those sales are. And anyone that's been in the market over the last year realizes the market has been extremely high over the last couple of years. So just a couple of notes here. One, on February 22nd, I think I sent everybody an email. I'd like to recommend that the assessors meet at 5:30. If that's possible for everyone to meet at 5:30. Shirley Bartlett, our assessor's agent, will be here, and she'll talk about the most recent year. She's tabulating right now of retail sales and where that puts our sales ratio, and how the town would have to adjust property values to make sure that we stay within that 90% cushion. Just as a reminder, if we fall below that 90%, the state withholds money from us. So it's kind of a way of their having leverage to make sure that we're keeping our valuations up where they need to be. So because of that, we know that really, if we do adjust property values up, regardless of what happens with the budget, people will see an increase in their property taxes. Because if the valuation of your home goes up from $100,000 to $105,000, most likely that's going to raise your tax bill by about $100. So last time I mentioned that the process would include getting the word out to people about what the situation we're in now, and perhaps considering a assistance program for our most vulnerable residents. Now, one of the things that we heard during the discussion about the tipping fees is we didn't want to do something that would raise the costs on those that could at least afford to pay it. Well, property taxes are going to go up regardless of what the budgets do. So is there a way that we can come up with a program? So I put together this fact sheet that basically talks about a program similar to one that's been put together in other towns, like the town of Elliott and the town of Yarmouth. The criteria is based on 2 things: a resident's age and whether or not that resident qualifies for the state property tax credit program. And you have to have a certain threshold of your income, and your taxes have to be high enough, your income has to be low enough, and you can get a credit back. Maine Revenue did some, we asked Maine Revenue for their numbers. In 2019, 103 property owners in Madison qualified for this credit through the state program. The average credit they received was just under $500, $496. Now, those 103 people that qualified in 2019 were a variety of ages. I'm assuming some of them were older than 65 or 70 years old, but some of them would have been younger than that to get that credit as well. So in the middle of that page, I wrote the criteria, and I pulled this from the town of Elliott's program. The criteria is the applicant has to have a homestead exemption, which means they live in the house that they own, and they have to have received that for 10 consecutive years. So right there, that will eliminate some folks. This is targeted towards older residents who have lived in their home for a long time. The other criteria is what we mentioned. They already received the credit under the state property tax fairness program. In Elliott, the applicant has to be 70 or older, and they have to have their property taxes paid up to date. So that's the program that Elliott does it. I'm thinking, in my best guesstimate, if we were to implement something like that, we would probably have about 50 qualified recipients within the town, assuming that half of the people that qualify for that state program are over the age of 70, if you chose that age of 70. So at the last meeting when I brought this up, one of the concerns was, well, how are you going to pay for it? And that's
That's the question we stopped out.
yeah.
Have we made this Maine revenue program known to, can we make it known to all of our residents?
Well, that's a good point, and certainly
That's one of the things that I'd like to see us do.
certainly that's one of the things that we can try, because what we've run into this year is we've had people that are struggling to pay their taxes for a variety of reasons, and they qualify for a homestead exemption, and they didn't even know about the homestead exemption. So yes, when the state has programs like this, we need to try harder to make sure all of our residents are aware.
You know, I'll get it on our website, maybe we have a link to go get to it.
And we try to put that out in a notice when we send taxes out, but again, not everybody reads what we send.
Mr. Nelson?
Now, if you increase the value of my home and the budget doesn't go up, doesn't that lower the mill rate? And then if my house goes up by 20,000, my taxes don't go up. If you don't spend any more money, the mill rate goes down, and if I'm paying $2,000 a year, if it's $20 per thousand, or, right? I mean,
Most likely, the mill rate wouldn't go down enough to equal out the raise in the value. What you're talking about is if we did a town-wide valuation, and we're in the middle of doing that, but home prices are going up so fast that we don't have time to finish the valuation. So we're talking about doing an across-the-board adjustment to property values. And what I've talked with the assessor about is to do a 5%. So if you did a 5% across the board, that means somebody that's got a $100,000 valuation, it'll be $105,000. So based on that, their taxes will go up about $100. But by doing that, you're not going to offset the mill rate enough to offset that increase.
Now, in our sales rate last year was 91%.
Last year, it was 99 3 years ago, and it's 91 last year.
If that goes below 90, we don't get reimbursed for homestead. We don't get reimbursed for Betty and better, I believe.
Right, and revenue sharing. The states, once you get below a 90% valuation, the state starts holding back the money they give you for revenue sharing, Betty, and homestead exemption.
A percentage of the whole amount?
Just a percentage based on, like if you're at 85% valuation, you only get 85% of your revenue share. For the town of Madison, those three things total up to $1.65 million. So if we lost 10% of that, that's about $165,000, which is about $500,000. So either way, so it's a checks and balance from the state to make sure that towns aren't undervaluing intentionally.
What is the current evaluation of the town of Madison?
$342 million is our current valuation.
All right, so the funding.
So if we were to propose this type of program for tax assistance for our most vulnerable, there are some sources of revenue that the town has so that you don't have to go to town meeting and say, we want to raise $15,000 from taxation to give it to the most vulnerable. The two sources that we have is the revenues that we take in from the sale of foreclosed properties. The other source of revenue is the TIF that we have with the Woodland Senior Living facility out in East Madison. So those two sources of funding could fund a program between $15,000 and $20,000 a year, according to my best estimates. So I think there would be concerns from some about raising money from taxation to give to other people that are vulnerable. But I would also say that the state and the town does that with general assistance already. So that there's a kind of a precedent set. But what I tried to shape is something that we wouldn't necessarily have to raise out of taxation each year for town meeting. We can raise it out of other resources. So I tried to give you some information about it. Of course, I don't need a motion on it. I just need some direction. Do you want me to put together a full-fledged ordinance that I could bring back to the board, and if you wanted to, you could bring it before the voters at town meeting?
We got to have a public hearing before that.
That's correct.
The only negative things I can see in that is that those people, that small number of people that are eligible for this, most of those elderly people wouldn't understand what their benefits are to begin with unless somebody made contact with them to make sure that they understood this, or they're just going to slide through the cracks. Because those people aren't going to pick up and read any notice that you send to them or anything of that nature. So I don't know how you would address that, but to me there would have to be some way to know who those people are and contact being made to those people so that this program is going to work properly. Because if you don't get to those people, then this program isn't going to work properly.
All right, so we have any interest in putting together Madison's proposed program? Yes? Seven? Yeah. Good, well, let's take a look at, but I do think, let's take a look at a Madison program, what it would look like, and I do think though that we need to get the state program out to people. Right. See how many more people would take advantage of that.
Yes. So just that being said, on the first meeting in March, right now it's scheduled for March 15th. And you know, I've explained to you that I'll be out of pocket for a couple of weeks in March, so depending on my return timing and quarantining and whatnot. For the first meeting in March, I intend to have a list of the ordinance changes that are heading towards town meeting. So this would be included in that with about 4 or 5 others. That the planning board's been working on some of the site review. We've talked about others during the course of the last year. So I'd like to do that at the first meeting in March.
Okay, thank you. All right, so number 4, discuss town manager's performance review. All right, so I put this in public session to start with tonight for any feedback on the document. So is everybody okay with this document? We can move forward with it probably in our next meeting, or we'll see how the assessment meeting goes in March. Anybody have anything they want to add to this? Nobody really got back to me, so I kind of figured we didn't have any issues with it, but I want to make sure that we have kind of consensus on how we're going to go about this. And we've already nominated Selectman Savage as our record keeper, so we don't have to worry about that. Is there anything we want to add to this? You'll get us the goals. Town manager, you'll get us the goals, your goals that you are working on at this time, and we will look at setting some new goals. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions? Everybody pretty okay with it? Okay, so we'll plan on that on an executive session on the 22nd. All right, selectmen's concerns, Mr. Moody.
None, sir.
Mr. Gopi.
I still have two more concerns on number one discussion, not about the tipping fees, but about another issue.
Okay.
And, don't know what you want me to do. On number one, I still have some other issues, not the tipping fee, not the $143,000, but, what brought this whole thing to a head.
So do you have questions? Because we do have, I don't, Mary Lou's not here anymore, we do have Somerset Disposal. Do you have questions for any of the haulers?
No,
Okay.
no.
My only concern was that we've had an increase in the number of tons that we had brought in.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's the only, and that line is going up, that's the only thing that we looked at, so.
Right, and that was my concern about how come the tonnage was going up, but I guess we're all happy with that?
So I guess the question that really hasn't been answered yet, because we've talked about haulers that bring in their solid waste from the towns. We talked about that. And that's really what the tipping fee affects all those haulers.
Right,
The other thing is construction depth.
right.
And we asked the haulers that were here at the last meeting what they did with their construction depth. And if that is somehow being brought into waste management and being charged to the towns, then yes, that is an issue. So I guess if you want to ask the haulers that are here what they do with construction demo,
I guess that's correct. Correct question. When you took the demo from my store,
Yeah.
you took it down, you weighed it in. Now, I paid for all that stuff, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So you
So,
didn't say Madison?
What we did, and I told Tim that because I had a similar situation here when they were remodeling this.
Right.
I was burning the wood, and Tim brought it to my attention that it had to be approved by DEP. I had talked to DEP since, so from now on, I cannot do that anymore. I have to bring it down there to disposal, and that's what I had to fix on my end, so.
Okay, so like from my store, you just take it from my store down to the waste management?
And that will be charged to me, not
Right.
to anybody else.
Now, you
And I
don't,
can't burn it, I have to dispose it correctly, so that's where demolition debris will be going from now on.
okay.
There's also some concern that the other questions that have been brought up, and there's no really answer to it, is the cardboard from other haulers that is going into the trash. You know, Waste Management doesn't, I believe, Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't charge you a tipping fee for that cardboard. They'll take it for nothing, but the single stream recycling, they charge you $45 a ton. The cardboard, I believe, they take for nothing, Tim?
cardboard, they don't charge. They usually give a credit, but that.
They used to give a $40 credit per ton, now they don't. I have said this way back when David Barry was town manager, that certain people, anybody that tells you that recycling don't cost you money as a hauler is lying to you. It costs you money. It costs you your time and labor and fuel to go around every money to pick that up. There's other haulers that come in and have a trash bin and a recycling bin, but puts it all tips up one and then tips up the other and brings it down there under the load, where if you took that out of the waste stream, it would save you $72 a ton. Nobody besides myself, I guess, is the only one that's been doing that correctly.
So you're saying the other haulers they have a bin, like you said at the last meeting, they put both of them in the same truck and head down. Is that what you're saying?
That's right, so you'll
So,
get charged.
Can we put that down on a list of things that, we need to make sure that they understand that if they have 2 bins, we don't want them going to the same place.
Yes, and we can do that, and I will, you know, to what Chris is saying, when we get our statement from Waste Management every month, Somerset Disposal is the only one of all the haulers that has their cardboard broken out. And we can see that right there on the
We need to
statement.
get the others to give us that information. If they have bins, I mean, we have a bunch of them that have bins around here, so if they have 2, let's make sure we're getting that information.
And
If they're not getting it, then why aren't we getting
So,
it?
And the other issue would be the single stream recycling that they charge $45 a ton. You know, I do pick up a fair amount of still that they charge per month on a bi-weekly basis to pick up their single stream recycling, and that goes down to Waste Management. I believe they charge $45 a ton, Tim?
42.
42. So that could go down to Skowhegan Transfer Station, and it would cost the town of Madison nothing. It's roughly about a $5,000 savings, $4,000 to $5,000 savings if we were to make that change. I haven't been directed to stop going down to Waste Management for single stream, and that would have to be a single sort recycling down to Skowhegan.
so do you do Rainings up there?
I do.
All right, so Rainings has a cardboard and they have regular trash, right?
Correct.
All right, so you're telling me they separate it out for you, and if you came, I'm not saying, I should say this for you, but whoever picks up their trash, they put it into one outside of you,
That's
then they
correct.
just, so why would they separate it out for them?
I don't know, Bob, I can't answer that. There's three bins at the Family Dollar, 2's for cardboard, 1's for trash. There's 2 at Big Apple, 1 for cardboard, 1 for trash. There's 2 at Subway, 1 for cardboard, 1 for trash. 2 at Irving's, 1 for cardboard, 1 for trash. Both the nursing homes up here out on Main Street and out East Madison, the same way. There's plenty of extra cardboard that you can get out of the tonnage to try to save you the $72 a ton by taking it out of the waste stream. But I don't know the reasoning why they're not showing those tonnage.
But I mentioned in the last meeting, and that was my concern, is why are they going to, because this is all borne on the taxpayer, but they don't care if they're saving money, because they're just getting paid. Their truck's there, they're gonna take it, I mean, that's the hard part of controlling what a business is going, where you're going to.
Skowhegan has a policy, and I think it's an ordinance, I'm not sure, but they have an ordinance. If you're a commercial business, and you have a lot of cardboard, they require you to have a trash bin and a recycling bin. You have to bring that cardboard to their facility. I don't know if that's something that the town of Madison should look at to adopt, but it would certainly save money if you can take that cardboard tonnage out of your waste stream and get rid of it for nothing.
Mr. Rivers?
Yeah, yes, I'm still thinking
We'll come back to it. Go ahead. Mrs. Savage? Okay, I have none. And citizens
All right,
concerned.
Al, you had one over here.
Oh, Mr.
Yes, I had 2 questions about the back gate.
Yeah.
The number of residents, is that our number of residents, 15,858?
You go to the back gate over in North Walk? Do you go?
No, I got Roy, and sometimes I gotta go to the back gate when I get my cardboard together.
Every time you go to the back gate, the attendant there is supposed to check your sticker and put a tick mark in the box. So that 15,000, that represents how many tick marks from Madison
Throughout the year.
throughout the 2020.
All right, and how do they weigh the stuff?
They don't.
Well,
And we've said this for years, that the back gate is an imperfect system, but it's the only system that we have. So we know, you could go to the back gate and drop off cardboard, and the person behind you coming from Smithfield could drop off a ton of demo. But at the end of the day, we're only gonna get paid, or we're gonna get charged a percentage based on trips, based on visits. That's how they do it. Now,
Okay.
Waste Management is in the process of renegotiating their contracts to have a landfill. And I've heard that part of those conversations include a new back gate that would have scales, but I don't know how true that is.
Tim, is that 90, and then above and beyond, you're still paying 12,600 for tires, propane,
Yeah.
TVs?
Yeah.
These are all added in, or is that included in the 90?
Nope.
3,000.
So you add those three together, 93, 16,000, 4, 5,000, and that gets you about $110,000.
Okay.
So that's essentially what Madison pays for their transfer station through Waste Management.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nelson, you okay?
Yep.
Any other citizens' concerns? Any other? All right, seeing none, looking for motion to adjourn? And a motion and a second to adjourn, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries, we're adjourned at 7:05.